Welcome back inside the Digby Area Recreation Center in the Digby Arena. Scott Squires live with you for draw number 7. It's day 2 and the third draw for today. And as you can see, play just underway in the first end. Jumping the gun a little bit. I guess better early than late, I suppose. 4 o'clock Atlantic time schedule start. Currently 3:58. And believe me, in the broadcasting business, we go right to the minute. We believe in timing. Team Nunavut taking on Team British Columbia. Nunavut skipped by Edmund Saddleberger. They are 0-2 currently. And there you see them making the handshake. So they weren't just underway, taking their last couple of minute slides. So I jumped the gun on that one. And British Columbia skipped by Bob Ursel. BC 2-1 through 3 draws. So BC looking to get 3 in the win column. Nunavut looking for their first win. And Team Nunavut skipped again by Edmund Saddleberger. Their vice is Dennis Masson. Their second is Chris West. And their lead, Lloyd Kendall. For Team British Columbia, skipped Bob Ursel. Vice, David Stevenson. Second, David Fresky. And throwing lead stone for British Columbia, Fred Thompson. Here you see the two teams exchanging some pleasantries before we get underway here. British Columbia wearing the mainly blue with white, and Team Nunavut wearing the kind of burgundy-ish red with gold and white trim. And they're just now introducing the two teams. And they always like to introduce the two feature teams that are here playing on sheets B and D. Of course, those are the two sheets that we are showing live on Bell Alliance TV1. And while they're doing the introductions, I'll go down the men's standings very quickly. In Pool A, Alberta and Ontario 3-0. And then Saskatchewan, Manitoba in the middle of the pack at 2-1. And then teams still looking for their first victory in Pool A, Yukon, Northern Ontario, and Northwest Territories. On the Pool B side with the men, Nova Scotia leading the way at 3-0. A couple of teams at 2-1, British Columbia and Prince Edward Island. And then 3 teams at 1-2, Newfoundland and Labrador, New Brunswick, and Quebec. And then, as mentioned, Nunavut looking for their first victory here at the 2016 Everest Canadian Senior Curling Championship. So Nunavut will be curling with the Yellowstones, and they'll have the hammer in end number 1 by virtue of their throw to the button during warm-up. Nope, check that. BC will have the hammer in 1. Nunavut throwing yellow will start us off. British Columbia will be throwing the red stones. So just about ready to get going here. Lloyd Kendall will be first up. So just getting word from my producer, Chuck Calder. He's got a view of the scoreboard at the other end. And scoreboard is showing Nunavut with the hammer, which is why we would have put that up on our score graphic for you. So there's a little bit of discussion going on. I think they're trying to sort that out. I'm sure Nunavut would be happy to take the hammer, but it looks like our manual scoreboard operator may have made a little boo-boo. That's all right. So Nunavut will throw first. BC with the hammer here. And we are underway. Draw 7 on day 2 of this 2016 Everest Canadian Senior Curling Championship. Scott Squires with you. Glad to have you on board. Our feature game here on sheet B. Teams now really starting to kind of settle into where their positioning is. The undefeated teams separating themselves from the pack a little bit. Once you start getting into that 7th, 8th draw, you start to get that separation, and teams start to really understand where they are in the standings and what they have to do to stay in the running if they're, sitting at 500 record or, a game above or what have you. Pardon me, but when you're getting into draw 7 and 8 and you're running undefeated, that's usually setting you up pretty good for later on in the week. Lloyd Kendall throwing those lead stones for Team Nunavut. See what kind of approach these two teams take here. As we saw in the women's game that I did earlier, the 12 o'clock or the 12:30 draw, we saw kind of a feel 'em out end between British Columbia and Newfoundland on the women's side in the first end. Just kind of figuring out the ice, figuring out the weights, getting their draws down. Let's see if there's a similar situation here. BC coming right down. Fresky putting a little bit of a brush on that at the end. And that'll push that Nunavut stone out. And BC now sits shot. And there's Chris West. Chris with his first rock here this afternoon. West and Masson on the sweeping. And when I asked Dennis Masson, gentleman on the right in the ball hat, just wanted to confirm the pronunciation of his name. It's spelled Masson. I said, is Masson good? He said, that's good. He said, just don't say Mason. Mason is one S. So I promised him I wouldn't. So you just saw there moments ago, Skip Bob Ursel getting the positioning down for this shot. And there is Don Fresky, the second for this British Columbia side. Follow us along on Twitter. You can follow TV1_CA as well as JOHSCO on Twitter. Send us out your tweets. Tag us with those two Twitter names, at TV1_CA and at JOHSCO. We also use the hashtag Everest Furby or hashtag TV1, and that's the number 1. Chris West with his second here, and we're just underway in the first end. Scott Squires with you. Glad that you are joining us wherever you're tuned in on Bell Alliant TV1 today, whether you're watching on your handheld device, sitting in your basement, whether you're watching on a laptop in the living room, whether you're got us on an iPad in a coffee shop somewhere, wherever you're tuned in, glad to have you on board. And one of the neat things is when you come to an event like this and you're doing these webcasts that are available on bellalliant.ca/TV1, it's neat to talk to the people and get the stories about where different family members, friends, colleagues, acquaintances, so on are watching from, and literally from all over the world. And that makes us very happy. And I know that it's great for us to be able to bring this to you, and we want to thank Everest for being the sponsor of this event. Visit everestfuneral.ca to get information about the fantastic service, a one-of-a-kind service that Everest offers. And Everest has done a great job. Seems every time I turn around, there's some kind of cool little bit of Everest swag. They've got really cool coasters. They had some, what do you call them? Drink cozies, the kind of the sleeves, beverage holder that you put your cold beverage in to keep it chilled. They had those, so it's a lot of fun. Great atmosphere here this week. And of course, Digby and the surrounding area just opening up their hearts and doors and businesses to all of the curlers, families, dignitaries, broadcasters, you name it. Just a wonderful atmosphere going on here, and it's only going to build as we get towards the championship Saturday. And on that championship Saturday, as we see Bob Ursel sweep that Nunavut stone out toward the back, pretty open up within the main part of the house, as you see there, just a couple of rocks off to the side in the back corner. But something to keep in mind as well. Not only will Saturday be the championship games for the men's and women's, it will also be the Everest Furby Pro-Am. That'll be a neat event. I'll get to more on that in just a second. David Stevenson, the vice for this BC team, throws this rock. Thompson and Fresky just watching it sail down, and looks like this is going to come to a stop. Will it hang around or will it go? No, it goes out the back as Settelberger just gave it an extra brush there just to be sure. But the Everest Furby Pro-Am, 4 very iconic Canadian curlers, Randy Furby, Jennifer Jones, Brad Jacobs, Al Hackner, will be here. And 4 lucky curlers, senior curlers from across Canada, have gone through a contest and have been fortunate to be selected to be a part of it. So there'll be the 8 curlers, the 4 senior curlers from across Canada, and those 4 Canadian icons. And then Randy Furby, Jennifer Jones will be team captains, and they will have a draft. They'll draft the remaining 6 players onto their team, and then they will play a Pro-Am event right here at the Digby Area Recreation Center, and it'll be live on Bell Alliant TV1. So you don't want to miss that. Visit bellalliant.ca/TV1 for more information on that, as well as our broadcast schedule. David Stevenson now from Vancouver, British Columbia, delivers his second here. I like those BC colors, I'll tell you. Nice and bright. Red, yellow, blue. Actually, the same colors as the provincial flag of Newfoundland and Labrador. So the West Coast, the East Coast to the extreme, both with similar colors in their provincial flags. Who says the East and West don't have enough in common? Our goal is to unite the country, one curler and one flag at a time. Now you see the scoreboard in behind. Only in the first end here. BC throwing red rocks. Nunavut with the yellow. Nunavut trying to secure their first victory here in this championship. A little bit of a delay now, and we finally get to the skip of this Nunavut team, Edmund Settelberger. You see Kendall and West, 2 Newfoundland natives on the front end of this Nunavut team. We'll expand on Kendall and West's connection to Newfoundland and Labrador a little bit later on. That's called a teaser, folks. You got to stick around now to find out what I'm going to say. All 5 sheets in play here at the main Digby Arena. And then, of course, the Digby Curling Club just next door. 4 sheets in play there as well. And it's been fun to see the Furby patch, where curlers and volunteers and broadcasters alike come together to regale one another with stories of greatness or otherwise. Here's Bob Ursel, skipping the British Columbia team, but hails from Winnipeg, Manitoba. Pardon me, been curling since age 12. His father, Jim Ursel, won the 1977 Brier and was a 2-time Canadian senior winner. And as Bob says in his bio, his dad, Jim, is his hero. And I can certainly respect that, because my dad, Bill Squires, was absolutely mine as well. So there you have a look at the situation in the house. A couple of red BC rocks in play. Edmund Settelberger has his last rock coming here, BC with hammer in this first end. And there you see Settelberger, a southpaw or a lefty. You don't see a whole lot of left-handed curlers. Got the stabilizer in the right hand. And there's Settelberger's release. Final rock here for Nunavut in this first end. Weston Kendall come onto it now, trying to get that hit and a roll over. He does get the hit. Does he roll far enough to get protection? He's going to leave himself wide open, and now Ursel has an opportunity here to score a couple. See Ursel backpedaling down the sheet, having a few final words with his vice, David Stevenson. So Ursel first end here. Third draw of the day, 7th overall at this 2016 Everest Canadian Senior Curling Championship. Nice look at Ursel as he watches this delivery. He's going to want to come in, take that one out the back. Certainly scores 2, and on the other side, maybe 3. So it is a count of 3. The two stones at the back, I wasn't sure. Difficult to tell from that angle, but they walked over right away and signaled 3. I thought they might do a measurement for those 2 rocks at the back, but the separation was enough. So a nice end there for Team British Columbia and Bob Ursel as they score 3 with the hammer in end number 1. So a nice way to start for this British Columbia men's team. So Fred Thompson from Merritt, British Columbia, starts things off for BC here. And he'll bring this first rock right down into the ring, so that opens things up right away in this second end. Both teams now can just bring rocks right into the ring, right off the hop. Lloyd Kendall mentioned his connection earlier from Burgeo, Newfoundland and Labrador by way of Ramia. And then the gentleman on the right of your screen there, Chris West, hails from Buckens in Newfoundland and Labrador. So one half of this Nunavut foursome coming from the easternmost province in Canada, Newfoundland and Labrador. Great to talk to the two teams prior to this game, both Nunavut and BC. Great bunch of guys on both. Had a good chat with each, and fun to talk to Lloyd Kendall and Chris West, especially just because I'm a Newfoundlander, and to hear a tinge of the accent still hanging on with the two guys who are now living way up north in Nunavut. Always makes me a little heartsick. Gives me a little pang of the heartstrings for my home and native land, Newfoundland and Labrador. So there you see a pretty open end here right now. Just the 2 rocks in play. They're both red of BC. No guards in play whatsoever. Edmund Saddleberger will have some work to do here after giving up that 3 spot in the first end. And Kendall follows his skip's instruction to the tee. And now we move to Mr. Freschi. And I asked him about the pronunciation of his name. It's spelled F-R-E-S-C-H-I, but he told me it's Freschi, and of Italian descent, 2nd or 3rd generation Italian, according to Don. So A little bit of Italiano with Mr. Freschi running through his veins. And my daughter, Sophia, she's 10. She's always quite interested in ancestry and lineage of folks that she meets. She's always asking me about my ancestry and what she is, so to speak. So that's kind of neat. Makes me interested to find out that stuff as well. And there we see a miss for Team Nunavut, and you don't want to give that kind of opportunity to British Columbia. So the first clear miss that we've seen here in the early stages of this draw between BC and Nunavut. Second end action here. Nunavut with the hammer. And Don Freschi from Trail, British Columbia, with his second stone here in this second end. And Freschi, not wanting that rock to get lonely, walking right down, right in the ear of Fred Thompson and David Stevenson, the two gentlemen doing the sweeping. And he'll watch that rock come to rest and become a guard. And just to the right of your screen, you can see laying in the blue there, Be Still My Heart, if that's not a corn broom. Of course, you can't use it for any brushing in play, but gosh, that takes me back, way back, to when I was a kid and my dad used to curl at the St. John's Curling Club. And when he would be at work and if his curling broom was anywhere within reach, I would grab it and take it outside and use it as a goalie stick in road hockey. My dad would come home, his corn broom would be in the driveway or on the front lawn. Hey, Scott, did you use my curling broom for a goalie stick again? No. He always knew that I did, and he always let me. One of the reasons my dad's my hero. So we see that Nunavut yellow rolling over there just to the side of the button. A little bit of coverage from those two red stones up top, so Nunavut currently sitting 1. And Bob Ursel will place the broom. And we were on earlier and we were talking about the swing in the ice, which is basically how much movement you can get on your rock if you're looking for a draw. And by all accounts, the swing here on sheet B and sheet D, our two feature sheets, pretty significant, quite a bit of swing. And a lot of times you're seeing skips take a lot of ice when they're calling for any kind of a draw in toward the middle. And you saw there Bob Ursel gave all kinds of ice to David Stevenson when calling for that draw. And it just ticks off that redstone. They were trying to snug it in behind, but it just tips off that red rock at the top of the 12-foot and will sit right there. $3-0 your score here in this second end. British Columbia putting 3 on the board in end number 1. Here comes the throw now from the Nunavut Vice, Dennis Masson. Dennis hails from Souris in Manitoba. And perhaps just a bit too much weight on that, as that will go through the house and out the back and will get settled in behind with the rest of the rocks that are out of play. So that'll go down as a miss for Masson and Team Nunavut. And you see Ursel setting the broom. Less ice needed for this one, as certainly more weight out of the hand of Stevenson here for this shot. Thompson sweeping just for line. They get the push back. They clear those two rocks out of the way. One BC, 1 Nunavut. And all you're left with on your screen are 3 red rocks, 1 guard and 2 in the house. So again, things going the way of Team British Columbia, at least to this point in this second end. There's no for Bob Ursel. He would certainly like to force Nunavut to take no more than a single point here and then take the hammer back in 3. Maybe even steal if he can. Masson with the shot. And he'll run that redstone out of play. The shooter rolls out as well. So we're left now with only 2 rocks on your screen and a little more room for Bob Ursel to work with. So a lot fewer rocks in play, I should say, in this second end as compared to what we saw in the first. And that whole idea of the first end perhaps being a feeling out end went out the window immediately when skip Bob Ursel from BC saw the opportunity to go for a multiple point end, which he was able to do, scoring 3. Ursel, 3 kids cheering on Dad, Mitchell, Brady, and Spencer. This Ursel offering on its way. Again, you see Ursel following it all the way down, right in the ear of Thompson, who's sweeping it. And pretty nice shot from the skip. And we'll see now what Ed Saddleberger has in store here. Lots of experience wearing the colors of Team Nunavut. Ed represented Nunavut at the 2012 Canadian Mixed as well as 2013 Canadian Mixed. Skipped the Canadian Senior Team in 2013 and 2014, the Canadian Mixed again, as well as again the Seniors in 2014. So many times Mr. Saddleberger has worn those fine colors of Team Nunavut. Going to come down, can he hit that one and angle it away, maybe looking to run it back onto that other red. And instead, he ends up doing a favor for Team BC as that yellow rock from Nunavut angles onto the red BC stone, pushes it back to the tee line, and then the shooter from Nunavut rolls off to the side. So a couple of options now for Bob Ursel. And again, he's going to set things up now to make it very difficult for Nunavut to score 1, and if there's any kind of miss at all from Saddleberger for Nunavut, opportunity here for a steal for Team British Columbia. Nunavut with the hammer here in the second end. Ursel getting ready to throw his second skip stone here, and then there'll be 1 rock left, and it'll belong to Ed Saddleberger of Nunavut. Interesting thing is we've got Nunavut taking on BC, but both skips are from Manitoba. Skip Bob Ursel from Winnipeg and Edmund Saddleberger from Flin Flon. So it's the Manitoba natives going head-to-head, but skipping different provincial teams. Squeaks it by there. We'll try and get that little hit now and a gentle roll over, freezing it up against. And this now puts a lot of pressure on Ed Saddleberger. He is staring 4 BC rocks right in the face, and 2 of them very close together, basically jammed up against one another. You see it there right on the tee line in the 4-foot. So Saddleberger and Nunavut, the very most, are going to score one only. And anything other than that would be even more of a delight for Team British Columbia. Well, Saddleberger still got a smile. At the end of the day, they're all having fun out here, just like we are. And I hope you are as well. Saddleberger, final rock in this second end. Staring for BC Red Stones. Kendall and West, the two Newfoundlanders, watching this into the house, trying to jam those two away. They push one out, but it's a steal of 3. So back-to-back 3-enders for Team British Columbia. Saddleberger gave it a good effort, but Team British Columbia just had it set up too well and making things so difficult for Nunavut. And again, best case for Nunavut there would have been to get a single, but just a little bit off on the delivery was Saddleberger. He took one BC stone out, but his own shooter rolled away, and what was left was 3 very well-placed BC stones, and BC puts another 3 on the board, so that's 6-0. And that's a significant lead through 2 ends. Nunavut will maintain the hammer here in end number 3. Bell Aliant is proud to be the official broadcaster for the 2016 Everest Canadian Senior Curling Championships from the Digby Arena and the Digby Area Recreation Centre in Digby, Nova Scotia. Bell Aliant, there's more to love with fiber op. Fred Thompson delivering lead rock here, getting us started in end number 3. And Fred wanted me to send out a special hello, so I will do that for him right now. Fred, when he's not curling, works for the City of Nelson Police Department in bylaw enforcement, and he wanted to say hello to all of his colleagues, friends, and buddies back at the Nelson Police Department. So, Nelson Police Department, hello, not only from your colleague Fred Thompson, but also from myself and all the crew at Bell Aliant TV1. Glad to have you on board, glad you're watching, and you're seeing a pretty good performance through 2 ends by Thompson and Team BC. So a bit of an uphill climb to say the least here for Ed Saddleberger and Team Nunavut. And there you see that swing that we talk about coming into effect as the movement from the hog line in can be significant. And I think all of the teams now to this point on day 2 have pretty much come to terms with what the ice is doing out there. But it can be tricky, especially if you're having to throw a real finesse shot and kind of a draw weight. That movement on the sheet, especially when you get into the rings, can make things a little more difficult. Saddleberger will try to pull that one back toward the end. So again, a couple of BC stones in play here. Looked like Saddleberger might have been calling for a center line guard here. Kendall with his second. Lloyd Kendall wanted to say a special hello and shout out to his kids, Manasee and Curly. Proud Papa saying hello to his kids watching here. So things looking pretty good here for British Columbia. You never know what to expect when you take to the ice to start a draw, but I'm sure Bob Ursel more than pleased with a 6-point advantage through 2 full ends. It just takes the pressure off of a team and off of a skip's shoulders, and it makes decision making a little easier because you've got that breathing room, you've got that little extra room for error, and we see right there a miss as that rock goes right through everything. But when you've got a 6-point lead, errors like that a little easier to take, and you don't stress about it as much, and it's easier to move on to the next shot when you have a miss like that, but you've got a fairly big lead through two ends. And Chris West now, the native of Buckets, Newfoundland and Labrador, wanted me to say hello to his kids as well. His kids, Justin, Maya, and Christiane. And he did say that he was pretty sure that at the very least Christiane would be watching today. So hello to all of the kids from Chris West. Hello from your pops. That's what my son calls me. And hello from Bella Lion TV1 as well. Glad that you're watching. Back home in Iqaluit. Don Fresky now. He'll deliver some good weight, takeout weight, peels off that Nunavut yellow. Shooter rolls out, opens things up. And there's a look at what we've got. So a couple of nice looking numbers on that board right in behind the two skips, especially if you're a BC fan. Reach out to us on Twitter. My Twitter name is Johsco, Johsco. And I'll be checking those tweets throughout the week. And I tweeted out actually a video earlier over on the other ice surfaces. Got watching the ice makers do their thing and watching them re-pebble the surfaces. Spoke to the two ice makers from the Digby Curling Club here, Glenn Adams and Rodney Adams. And yes, they are brothers. And they had some help. Jamie Danbrook, who is very skilled at maintaining the ice and ice making for curling rinks, came up from Halifax to help out this week. And Jamie was telling me that he actually helps do the ice or makes the ice for 3 curling clubs in Halifax, CFB Halifax, the Mayflower, and the Halifax Curling Club. So Glenn and Rodney, very proud of their ice and said they've actually been learning a lot from Jamie Danbrook. And the video that I tweeted out was actually a video of Jamie doing the pebbling on the ice. So as we move along here in this third end, a couple of British Columbia rocks in play here, and we see Dennis Masson now. We'll try to deal with those. And there's the shot from Dennis. May have been trying to get that double takeout, but couldn't run that other BC red to the one in the back. But he does, however, take care of one. So just the one rock counting right now, and it is that red BC stone at the back of the house that you see there. David Stevenson, the vice for this team. And he said that his mom, Eileen, has a new iPad. He wasn't 100% sure if she'd figure out how to get the stream onto the iPad, but he did want me to say hello to his mom. So, Eileen, your son David says hi. Hopefully you got the iPad working and you're watching us on BellaLiant.tv. BellaLiant.ca/TV1. What a good son saying hi to his mom. Dennis Masson now with his second here in this third end. 6-0 your score. Nunavut with the hammer. And you see this one coming down now toward the house. Weston Kendall trying to work it now and direct it over onto the side, and it'll settle just behind the tee line in the full 8-foot. You can hear some of the calls coming through the mics on the ice, coming from the other sheets in play here. On our other feature game on sheet D, Nova Scotia looking to remain undefeated on the men's side. They currently have a 3-0 lead over Team Quebec with play in the third end. That's our other feature game over on sheet D. Bob Ursel feeling pretty good about things here in this third end. Fresky leaning heavy on that brush, clearing a line, trying to keep it straight and true, and he does a good job as they get the nose hit. Tried to run it back, couldn't quite get the double on that other yellow Nunavut rock, but they'll take it. They eliminate one, and now Nunavut staring at 2 BC rocks, sitting shot rock and second shot. So Ed Saddleberger, the Nunavut skip, with his first throw here in this third end. It has not gone the way that Saddleberger or Nunavut would hoped coming into this draw. Saddleberger, the lefty out of the hack, and he delivers. Kendall and West on it right away. Easily by that guard. Again, looking for the angle to get that double, but couldn't quite get the sharpness of it. They do run one back. Again, the shooter rolls out, so again, opening things up. And it's Ursel just playing very sound game right now. And he's putting Saddleberger in a situation where he's limiting the number of points that Saddleberger can score with the hammer. And when you've got a 6-point lead, that's really what you want to do, just limit opportunities. I mean, we're still early. You know, we're in the third end, so technically a lot of curling left to go, but Ursel just playing very technically sound game right now. Just not giving Saddleberger really any opportunity at all to count any kind of significant points with hammer. Ursel with his second shot here. Looks to take out the Nunavut yellow and does just that. So again, Nunavut in a situation where Saddleberger can do no better than a single point. So we'll see what the result of this final shot is here. Team Nunavut, they'll be happy to take the point, but it puts hammer back into BC, and BC would still have a bulge of 5 points. So Ed Saddleberger with the final stone here in this third end. Looking for the hit and stick. And he'll get it. I'd have to get inside Ed's head to see if he might have been hoping for the peel off there and to have the shooter roll out to blank the end, but he does take the single point. So Nunavut on the board. We'll move to the fourth end, a 6-1 lead for Bob Ursel and Team British Columbia. And I want to remind you that you can visit bellalliant.ca/TV1 for online and on-demand content, as well as information on programming that's available exclusively to Bell Alliant Fiber Op customers in Atlantic Canada on Channel 1 and 401. Bell Alliant, there's more to love with fiber op. Lloyd Kendall delivering first rock here in this fourth end. And it'll sit right there as center line guard. A little better than halfway between the hog line and the top of the 12. Fred Thompson now with his first delivery here. I'm going to say hello to the folks at Curling Canada as well, following Curling Canada on Twitter. And they've been retweeting some of my tweets. So a thank you to Curling Canada. I'm going to ask you to follow Curling Canada on Twitter as well. Curling Canada, their Twitter account is @CurlingCanada. And you see this Nunavut offering starting to bend over across that center line, and another guard put up now by Saddleberger as he tries to set up some traffic in front to maybe take advantage of later on in this end. This BC Stone well clear the guards out front and will come to rest right there. And there seems to be a bit of a discussion there between David Stevenson and from BC and Skip Saddleberger for Nunavut. Not sure what that was about, but looks like all is well and we carry on. Chris West chomping on that gum. The Buckins native. Let's fly his rock here. And you're watching the 2016 Everest Canadian Seniors Curling Championship. We are live in Digby at the Digby Area Recreation Center in the Digby Arena. We're going to be here all week long. Full draw coverage on our feature sheets B and D, right up to and including the championship games on Saturday. All of the action exclusively on BellAlliant.ca/TV1. Moving a little bit of the traffic around there in front. And kind of a recurring theme throughout the first couple of ends, and most of the rocks you see in play have the red tops and handles belonging to British Columbia. West with his second. Kendall and Masson do a good job of sweeping that in, bringing it in almost to the button. It'll sit on the center line in the forefoot, just above the tee line. Don Fresky. If you're perhaps thinking to yourself, hey, Don looks kind of familiar and he even seems a little bit comfortable on TV. Well, there's a reason for that. Don, no stranger to the television screen. Don is the host of a long-running sports show, Sports Fishing on the Fly. And we were talking about that show earlier with Don, and Don very proud of that. I told him that I'd give the show a shout-out. Season 21 of Sport Fishing on the Fly premiering on Tuesday, April 5th, 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 Pacific, 9 p.m. Atlantic Time on the World Fishing Network. And that's www.sfotf.ca. And you'll see our good friend Don Fresky on there holding some fine-looking fish. But he's not holding. He's got his hands firmly wrapped around curling rocks and a broom. And West just working that stone. These guys are going to be tuckered out after this draw. I'll tell you, that's a workout. Chasing that rock down the ice, putting that pressure on the brush, brushing it vigorously down the ice. That'll give you a workout. That'll work up a lather, friends. Stevenson with some big takeout weight here. Leans heavily on that stabilizer. Right down the center line, through the middle, and into that crowd, and a nice shot there from David Stevenson as he came right down that center line, split the difference on the two rocks up top, cleared out the traffic in the middle, and now it's again British Columbia sitting 3. Solid shot there from David Stevenson. Dennis Mass settles in now. He gets ready to throw here. The vice for Team Nunavut. Dennis works for the Nunavut Power Corporation and is a heavy-duty diesel mechanic. Lots of curling experience as well for Dennis. He's played at the Dominion Canadian Championships, the Canadian Mixed Championships, and of course the Canadian Senior Championship. Stevenson now, after throwing that bullseye shot moments ago, with his second throw here in this fourth end. British Columbia here really looking to close things out. They take out that yellow Nunavut stone and get the nice roll over. And again, BC kind of having things their way here in this fourth end. Getting down into skip stones now. Saddleberg will throw first. So a great week of curling taking place here in Digby at the 2016 Everest Canadian Senior Curling Championship. Fantastic to have a wonderful sponsor like Everest on board. And it's an amazing, one-of-a-kind service that they offer across this great land of ours. I'll tell you more about Everest at the conclusion of this end. And Saddleberger comes up with a pretty decent shot himself as he takes out one of those BC Red Rocks and then gets that dandy little roll over and jams up against that other BC Redstone to sit shot rock. So Ed Saddleberger calls upon all of that curling experience, wearing the colors of Nunavut. Nice shot out there. Nunavut not going to make it easy for BC. And that's something, you know, again, we've seen through the first couple of days, is that even when teams get behind and, you know, the outcome may seem that it's not, these teams keep fighting no matter how many points they're down by or no matter what it looks like it may turn out to be in terms of the end result. These teams are not giving up. They're not walking away. And of course they wouldn't. I mean, this is a national championship. High caliber curling going on here, and they're representing their province. I've talked to countless athletes who have worn provincial and national colors, and they will tell you, all of them will tell you, nothing like the pride of pulling those provincial or national colors over your head and having them adorn your body as you're playing and representing your province or your country. So you're not going to see any quit in any of these teams, because at the end of the day, they're out representing their provinces here at a national championship. And that's great to see, and that's one of the reasons why I love sports so very much. So Saddleberger and Masson discussing things. Fourth end action here. Nunavut really up against it, down by 5. British Columbia with the hammer, and also facing the fourth end break here. So we'll see what Saddleberger he can come up with here. He had a nice shot for his first throw in this end. He's got to settle into the hack and come up with another one. There's a look right into the eyes of the Nunavut skip. Now he calls for the brushers. Wants to be right on that rock. And he moved the other one out of play, tries to push it back, and I think Saddleberger now just trying to limit potential damage that BC can do here. Just getting back to Everest for a minute. Everest with America's first nationwide funeral planning and concierge service, and they're also the title sponsor of the Everest Canadian Senior Curling Championship. And the goal at Everest is to sponsor curling at the senior level, to expand the interest of the seniors curling in Canada, and to maintain their reputability amongst more popular championships, Brier and Scotties. You know, talking to a lot of people around the Digby Arena the last few days, it's amazing what Everest has been able to do with their high-profile promotion of seniors curling. They've really taken this event to another level, and including the Everest Furby Pro-Am, just taking it up another notch altogether. And it's a first-class organization and a first-class event here being run in Digby. And we are certainly glad to be a part of it at Bell Alliant TV1. Fresky, the curler and the fisherman. A sportsman indeed. So uncharacteristically, a miss. And that's exactly what Saddleberger was hoping for. So Bob Ursel and British Columbia give up the steal of 1. So a little bit of light at the end of the hallway, or at the end of the sheet of ice in this particular case, for Nunavut as they get the steal of 1. So now they will give the hammer back to BC, and now the margin is 4 points, and still of curling left to go. So it's the fourth end break. We'll step aside. You're watching the 2016 Everest Canadian Senior Curling Championship live and exclusively on Bell Alliant TV1. We'll be back.
What's not to love about Nova Scotia? Our people. Nova Scotia is where some of the best folks in all of Canada live. The natural wonder of the Bay of Fundy. More water flows in and out of the Bay of Fundy every day than all the freshwater rivers of the world combined. And there's nothing like living life on the edge. Our history. We've had some big name celebrities drop by in the past. The United Empire Loyalists, Babe Ruth, and Admiral Digby. But we really don't like to brag. What I love most about Nova Scotia is our small towns. Hi, I'm Ben Cleveland, the mayor of the town of Digby, Nova Scotia. Where there are no strangers, just friends you haven't met yet. So when are you coming?
I'm Paul Gidney. I'm a from Digby, Nova Scotia. Well, this is our annual event. It's called Digby Scallop Days. There's roughly 100 scallop licenses in our fleet. Our main event is, of course, our shocking contest. There's 2 shells that are hooked together, and we have to take them apart and take the muscle of that, which is your scallop. I was fortunate today. I actually won the shocking contest.
I want to invite the whole world to come to Nova Scotia and Digby, to be here, to relax, reload batteries for the next year.
The beauty of the surroundings here. You have absolutely gorgeous vistas. Everywhere you look, there's another beautiful harbor, there's another beautiful lake. You cannot go anywhere without people smiling and being friendly.
We have the best seafood in the world. I lived here all my life. I don't want to be anywhere else.
Get some garlic butter on there. Give it a good slug, wipe it around a bit. These are caught yesterday. Some people check scallops quality by eating raw scallops.
Push them in a tight eater like that.
Yep.
Like that.
Just spreading them out here, and they won't be jammed up together. We roll them over, get the other side cooking. And by the time I do that to the whole tray, the first ones will be done. A little bit of garlic butter in a couple of minutes, and that's all you need. And they'll serve them right with a slice of lemon, and they're ready to roll.
Welcome back, and if you were still with us during the 4th end break, you got to see some sights and sounds from around Digby, and if you're like me, you are now in the mood for a gigantic order of scallops. Wow, did they ever look good. Much the most iconic thing and what is most famous in and around this Digby area. Lots of beautiful things in and around Digby, but the Digby scallop, world renowned. And if you've never had one, you are missing out. They are spectacular. So 5th end action, and credit to Team Nunavut, Ed Saddleberger, Dennis Masson, Chris West, and Lloyd Kendall. They got down early 6-0 after 2 ends, but they scored a single point in 3, stole one in 4 when it really looked like BC might have the makings of a big end. But they were able to make a couple of nice shots. They got a miss from BC on the last shot of that 4th end. Steal the point. They burn a rock there, unfortunately, though, to start the 5th. But again, you know, good start for BC, but credit Nunavut for fighting back and sticking with it. So that's where we are. You see the score on your screen, 6-2. British Columbia still, though, with a comfortable lead. Pay no attention to that manual scoreboard in behind. That hasn't been updated yet. It is 6-2. British Columbia with the hammer here in 5. We are just past 5 p.m. local time here in Digby, Nova Scotia, Atlantic Daylight Time. Great to have you with us on Bell Alliant TV1. And I know that we've had a chance to talk to people around this event, telling us all of their family, friends, colleagues, and otherwise watching on Bell Alliant TV1 from right across the country and right across the world. And even the curlers themselves, you know, when they're not curling and they're back at their hotel or whatever, they're all telling me, hey, I'm watching it on my iPad or on my tablet or on my phone or on my laptop. So a lot of interest watching the live broadcast on Bell Alliant TV1 online. And we're super happy to be able to bring it to you. A lot of fun. Fred Thompson settling in, wearing those sharp-looking, I guess it'd be curling shirts, wouldn't they? Golf style. Thompson with the delivery. So we'll see now. It would certainly be interesting if Nunavut were able to steal again here in 5. That would really kind of up the ante in this one. Chris West will get ready. Constantly chomping on that gum is Chris. And for some athletes, that's kind of a way to relieve the tension. They get some gum in there and just give it an old workout. I want to give a shout out as well to Rob Mabey from Republic. Rob was my point of contact in terms of getting involved with the 2016 Everest Canadian Championship, and he's a great guy, a lot of fun, super energetic. And I want to say a thank you to Rob and give a shout out to Republic. And why don't you give Republic a follow? They're on Twitter at I Am The Republic. Early end number 5 here. Moving some rocks around and readjusted the positioning of that one Nunavut yellow. Oh, Saddleberger trying to use every bit of that wisdom and curling guile that he's got. See if he can inch his way even further back into this one. And that's what I talked about off the top. You know, even though it was a big couple of ends for BC to start off, it happened early, so I'm sure that Saddleberger said to himself and to his team, hey, listen, okay, so we're down 6, but we still got 6 ends to go. Let's just chip away here and see what happens. And to this point, after the 3rd and 4th end, that is exactly what Nunavut are doing. They're just chipping away a point at a time. What was a 6-0 lead doesn't appear to be as insurmountable when all of a sudden it's 6-2. And you've still got 4 ends to play. Don Fresky, the second for British Columbia. Throwing this one right down. There's one. Just nudges on the second. And the shooter will roll out. So he opens up things in the center part of the sheet in terms of guards, so no guards to deal with at this particular juncture. This is On our feature game on sheet D, they're in the fourth end break. Nova Scotia leading Quebec by a score of 4-1. Nova looking to remain unbeaten and lead the way in their pool. Oh, we almost had a stumble at the back there, and Bob Ursel coming to the rescue of Ed Saddleberger. Skip to skip. Little Manitoba love happening right there. David Stevenson now. Stone-eyed steelies from the Vancouver, BC native. But he's really just a big teddy bear because before the match, he asked me to say hi to his mom, Eileen. That one goes into the crowd, shuffles things around just a little bit. So a little better looking things here for Nunavut in this end. 4 stones in the rings, 3 of them belonging to Nunavut, and the 1 red stone you see there from British Columbia. Dennis Masson now, second throw here in this 5th end. Right into that 1 red, takes it away. So for the first time in a while, as we look into the house, we don't see any red, all yellow of Nunavut. So Saddleberger, Masson, West, and Kendall, the Nunavut foursome, trying to keep it interesting here in this 5th end. See the scoreboard just in behind, 3-3, put up by BC and ends 1-2, but singles from Nunavut in 3 and 4. Stevenson going to come down, that roll over, so they do take out 1, and perhaps it didn't roll over as far as they would like, trying to get some cover. And you see the look at it there, probably a third of that red BC rock exposed on that left side. You see Masson talking about the shot, and there's the ice that Masson is giving to Saddleberger for his skip stones here in this 5th end. British Columbia does have the hammer. Saddleberger, that left-handed delivery out of the hack. Playing an intern here. You can see again Weston Kendall on their sweep duties, trying to just angle that out. So they take the BC rock out, the shooter rolls out as well, so that'll clear things up a little. That BC rock will still stay in play, but it's not scoring. And now again you see Bob Ursel, who perhaps didn't think that things would be feeling as tight as they are here in the 5th end after the first couple of ends that they had. But again, full credit to Saddleberger for making some nice shots and recovering from those first 2 ends. And as you see quite often, whenever a curler settles into the hack, they've got their routine that they go through. Bob Ursel with his first of 2 here. Calling hard 9 on this. And it'll roll out the back, so BC opening things up a little bit here. Question is now, is BC going to play for the blank? Try to get the hammer over into the 6th end and start running Nunavut out of rocks. Of course, Saddleberger still has one more throw to go here, so we can have a little bit of influence on that and what might happen. And there's been a couple of times through the first couple of days, and we saw definitely a couple of instances in the last game that I did on Sheet D, the women's game between Newfoundland and Labrador. This shot here, and I'll finish that thought in just a sec. Last rock here for Saddleberger in this 5th end. So as we see that shot come to rest, a couple of guards now in front. But just to finish that thought on the between Newfoundland and Labrador and British Columbia on Sheet D, the last draw that I did, a couple of times it looked like the skip was going to do one thing or had one plan, and they completely flipped the script and did something else. So that's why I wondered aloud if perhaps British Columbia for the blank here. So does BC feel comfortable? Do they want to do the hit and stick, take one and increase the lead back to 5, or do they want to blank and carry the hammer over into the next end? So it is the latter. They peel out that that Nunavut yellow. Shooter is out, so it's a blank in end number 5. So the hammer will carry over into the 6th end, and the lead remains the same at 6-2. So pretty good play by Ursel there to make that decision. You know, he could have gone one of two ways. He could have gone for the hit and stick, take the point, increase the lead to 5, and then give the hammer back to Nunavut. But I think Ursel there wanted to kind of stem the tide of the little bit of momentum that Nunavut had. Blank the end, take the hammer back into the next end, and just, again, start running Nunavut out of stones. And at the very least, if things played out on the surface, as you may expect, let's say BC gets points here, gives the hammer back to Nunavut, Nunavut gets points, then on that side of things, the game plan would be that BC would end up with the hammer in the final end, which is never a terrible thing. So a lot of different scenarios, I'm sure, rattling through the minds of both of these skips, Bob Ursel and Ed Saddleberger. Which one will play out? You're watching on Bell Alliant TV1. You're watching the 2016 Everest Canadian Senior Curling Championships. Thank you to the platinum sponsors, the town of Digby, the municipality of the District of Digby, Province of Nova Scotia, Department of Health and Wellness, Bell Canada, and the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency, ACOA. And that rock comes down into the rings. And just in case you happen to hear a strange whirring or humming sound, where we are located here, our broadcast position, high in the arena above ice level, I believe it is the ice compressor that kicks into duty every now and then and causes that kind of high-pitched whirring sound. So it's not an audio issue on anybody's end. It's actually something that's taking place right here in the arena. Try to come past that guard, and they just tick on it a little bit. Kind of spoiled the plan as they were looking to come in around that guard. Nestle it up next to that red BC rock, but it just hit the guard enough to change the path of that rock, and it ends up sailing into the back of the house. Fred Thompson with his second. BC, and Ursel will take this one and kiss off the other BC Red, and they'll sit right there. We'll see if Saddleberger now calls for that same shot that they tried a moment ago and just ticked off that high guard. Saddleberger, I believe, giving West a little more ice on this one. Big twist of the handle just before West let it go. A lot more ice this time, well by that guard now. Come back. Goes in behind the tee line. He's got a little bit of protection at the top and at the bottom. So again, interesting things shaping up here in this sixth end. Recap the scoring for you. BC scored 3 in 1 and then came right back with a big steal of 3 in the second end to take a 6-0 lead. Nunavut bouncing back with a single point in 3, a steal of 1 in the fourth, and then coming out of that fourth end break, BC with the hammer blanking 5, and we play on number 6, 6-2, BC leading. By the guard, nice looking shot there. Take that Nunavut yellow out the back. And now Saddleberger will call for that removal. You see how much ice the skip is giving to his second on this shot. And there you see West with that little flick of the wrist at his release point. Kendall and Masson really working this as it starts to really dig in and slow down now. And West has that one settled there, so a couple of guards up high. And I thought more that Saddleberger might come down and try and either push that red out or maybe even try to freeze up against it, but he decides to put a guard up. So, Don Fresky coming down the opposite side of the ice that we saw Newfoundland and Nunavut. I guess because from Newfoundland, I keep wanting to call them Newfoundland and Labrador. Comes down into that pile of red rocks there and just taps off a couple of his own rocks and will freeze up against that other BC stone in the full 8 foot. Into our vice stones now, Dennis Masson with the throw. Trying to come down into that pile of red. Tried to angle it back and take out that other red stone that's at the button, but just not the right angle of attack. It does take care of one BC redstone, but the yellow shooter rolls out. And now it's a crooked line of red stones in the house with a couple of Nunavut guards up top. BC with the hammer here. Just remind you that you are watching this live stream courtesy of Bell Alliant TV1. You can also find the links for the stream at DigbyAreaRecreation.ca as well as the Curling Canada website. Stevenson now playing the complete opposite side of the sheet here with his first throw for BC in this sixth end. Well by those guards, it'll curl in. And now just a mess of red rocks in there for Nunavut to have to deal with. So I think Saddleberger here is calling for the Rays to take that guard that you see right next to his brush and angle it back and try and eliminate a couple of those British Columbia stones. You got to think if BC puts 2 or 3 on the board here, you may see some handshakes. So big throw here for Masson. Kendall and West with the brush. So there it is, raised back, and they don't get the angle that they need. All they end up doing is creating more protection and cover, as the one BC rock that they did hit ended up going across the face and sitting in much better position on that T-line, buried in behind cover. So now you got to think that Ursula is going to call for Stevenson to put a little more protection in there, hug things up. Second stone here for Stevenson, and then it's into skip stones in this 6th end. On our feature game on sheet D, still 4-1 for Nova Scotia over Quebec as they play 5th end. So Stevenson brings that in halfway between the 12 and 8 foot above the tee line. So that's an awful lot of red stones. 6 BC rocks have been thrown in this end. All 6 are currently in scoring position. So we're down to skip stones now. Saddleberger. When I say he's seeing red, I don't mean that he's angry. I mean he's literally seeing red in terms of red rocks from British Columbia, all in scoring position currently inside the house. And in this, anything can happen. You probably have to believe that should British Columbia with hammer here put a significant number on the board, we might see Nunavut and BC shaking hands. But Saddleberger, I want to let that happen. He's coming after it here. Big weight out of the hack. West and Kendall on it. Driving it right back. There's 1, there's 2 into the pile, moving it around and sitting onto the button. And a sign there from Ursula as he raises the broom to say to Saddleberger, nice shot, and look at that. Is sportsmanship, and you have to acknowledge a great shot when one is made, and Ursel absolutely acknowledging the great shot there from his opponent Saddleberger. But at the end of the day, they are all sportsmen and all want each other to do well, and that's a very classy move right there by Bob Ursel. When he saw that shot come in and you saw him raise the brush and signal Saddleberger, great shot. And then when Saddleberger came down, a very cool moment with Ursel high-fiving the skip of the team he's trying to beat. But again, you know, a lot of camaraderie, a lot of fellowship amongst these curlers, and hey, they appreciate a great shot. And that's one of the best shots we've seen through 2 days of curling here. Saddleberger again calling up on all those years of experience wearing the colors of Nunavut, just up and came flying out of that hack and drove it into the pile, and they were like pinballs moving around in there, and he moved a bunch of BC red rocks around and ended up sitting his own Yellowstone pretty much on the button to sit shot rock. So Saddleberger not going to make this easy for Ursel and British Columbia. So Bob Ursel now, after high-fiving his opponent, has to come up now with a big shot of his own. More big weight out of the hack. Looking to just blast it in there, move things around, clear out those guards. And he does get things cleared up, so the traffic jam around the guard zone area cleared away. So now they just got the rocks in the rings to deal with. So Saddleberger will now see what he can come up with. And if he can come up with a steal here, I might leave the booth and go down and high-five Ed Saddleberger. because truly this end looked to be shaping up to be a 3 or 4 ender for BC, but Saddleberger with his first throw in this end just really whipped out a masterful shot out of his curling bag. And I think you saw just there a moment in your frame, Bob Ursel and David Stevenson, I think, still having to giggle and laughing about that shot. That would be a highlight reel shot. If you're putting together a highlight pack for this week, that one would be in there for sure. And on that note, I want to remind you to join me Monday morning at 8:40 a.m. Atlantic time as we'll be alongside Cyril Lunny for the Sideline Scoop when we take a look at all things Bellaline TV1, talk about the week that was and the week coming up. Again, join me on CTV Morning Live Atlantic, Monday morning at 8:40 a.m. Atlantic time. So Saddleberger, I'm not sure that that's the play that he wanted, but that does come to a stop just at the very top of the 12-foot there. And now Bob Ursel has an opportunity here if he can just nudge that yellow rock back far enough. Potential here to score 5. You see Stevenson asking if he needs more ice. So Bob really has the game in his hand right now. Final rock of this 6th end. If he can eliminate that yellow Nunavut rock and leave all of his other reds in play, I think you might see some Henley handshake. Ursel with the weight, with the line. Does he have the result? Out goes the yellow, out goes the red. Count them up, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is a 10-2 lead, and that is handshakes all around. So a game effort by Ed Saddleberger. Interesting, and they certainly provided some entertainment. And hey, that could be the shot of the tournament to this point, that first shot by Saddleberger in this end. However, just not enough as a very strong BC team led by Bob Ursel comes through with a 4 in the 6th end to make it a 10-2 final. So just to do a quick update on the standings here before we step away and get set for our final draw. So on the men's side, that will take British Columbia's record to 3-1. Nunavut now fall to 0-3, and that's good news for British Columbia because they are chasing Nova Scotia in Pool B. And currently, Nova Scotia leading by a score of 4-3. Quebec now making a bit of a charge here, trying to come back in that one. So this game over, and you can hop over now and join our feature game on Sheet B, and what should be an exciting finish between undefeated Nova Scotia and a Quebec team looking to even up their record at 2-2. So that's it for here on Sheet B. Make the final BC 10 and Nunavut 2. You've been watching the 2016 Everest Canadian Senior Curling Championships live and exclusively on Bellaline TV1. On behalf of the TV1 crew, Chuck Calder, Scott McRae, and the 45 North guys, I'm Scott Squires. Thanks for watching. We'll see you for our next draw. Just want to check the time of it there, make sure I've got it right for you. Coming up at 7:30 p.m. We'll be back on the air with you from the Digby Area Recreation Center. So long from the Digby Arena.